Hi guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Indira, and today I'm joined by Samantha Harrison. She finished 2023 as the UK number 1 over the 5k and 10k. In this episode, she talks through her journey into sport and how she's become an elite professional runner. Okay, it's probably not what you're expecting to hear, and there's lots to learn from it, so let's get into the episode. As always, please give the show a rating if you've been enjoying it. This really helps to give credibility to the show so I can keep bringing you guys great guests. Also, be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Fitter, Faster, Happier to send in your questions and suggestions, guest requests, and for race updates and more. Okay, time for the episode. Hi, Sam, how are you? And welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How's your morning been?
Yeah, pretty busy. Did train this morning, headed over for lunch, met up with my coach for a catch-up, and then here we are.
Brilliant. That sounds very productive. And was it a good session?
It's just gym session. So just cross-training. Just a light bit of cross-training, and that's it really.
Awesome. And so, for anyone who doesn't know who you are already, can you introduce yourself as an athlete?
Yep, I am Samantha Harrison and I'm a GB International Endurance runner.
Awesome. Right, okay. And so, some kind of questions to get us started. What would you say is your biggest lesson learned from sports so far?
Biggest lesson learned? I would say that you should never limit yourself. I think you really are capable of doing anything that you want to achieve if you push the limits and don't have those limits on yourself.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think that's the main one.
Yeah, mindset and stuff is definitely coming through more and more with so many athletes these days. And what are some topics that you feel most strongly about in sport at the moment?
Everybody's running incredibly well, aren't they? The world records are going left, right and centre. So, the world records are constantly being gone. I think they've just gone again in the 10k over at the weekend from Valencia 10k. So that's an interesting topic.
Definitely.
Fast times.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy stuff in the running world at the moment. And what would you say is your number one piece of advice that you give to your younger self?
Enjoy everything you do and just do it with passion and make sure you just enjoy yourself along the way.
Yeah, definitely. So important to kind of maintain that love of the sport, I guess. And so if we sort of, speaking of younger selves, go back to the start, where you came from. So, you've only been running since 2019 or, as per sort of power of 10 anyway. What's the background, how did sport feature in your life, if at all?
It's funny when people ask this because I don't feel when I was younger that sport really dominated my life. I was massively into football. I used to watch football, go to football games with my dad, and then I started playing football myself at quite a young age, from sort of 7 till about 14, 15. So played for football clubs, used to go training, 3 or 4 times a week. So I know the commitment that sport has. So I did that for quite a few years and got quite a good standard. Got scouted for Nottingham Forest girls. I think it was like under 13s at the time. But then after sort of when I was about 14, I decided that it was just too much commitment for what I wanted at that time of my life. I was studying and revising at school and I was really focused on my studies, and football was quite demanding at the time and doing lots of travelling, and it just wasn't at that age something I was ready to commit to. I just wanted to just live and have fun, and I think the enjoyment and the fun sort of came away from the football. So once that started to come away with me, I just decided that it wasn't for me anymore and wanted to focus on other things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then since then I didn't do any sports for a good few years. I just sort of studied, qualified as a dental nurse, and then just focused on that and trying to get my career at a good level. And then I did start to reintroduce fitness and sport around about 18, 19 years old. I used to go to the gym quite often, so I just started to go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, for a couple of hours a day, and then a few years after that, running then got introduced.
Yeah, no, amazing. And, you know, you say there with kind of commitments and, you know, that balance, finding that point. Was it difficult for you to let sport go, or did it get to a point where it was almost too much that you weren't enjoying it anymore?
No, it was actually surprisingly really easy, which shocked me. I think it was more difficult for my dad. He was like not too happy with me. I think you put so much into something, and then I just woke up one day and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. When I was 14, and I did a couple of training sessions and a match at football, and my head wasn't in the game. I just wasn't really enjoying it. I loved the social side of it. That was probably what kept me there for longer. I'm a very social bunny. So yeah, the social side to football, you are in a team. So to go and see my friends and play with them was great. So yeah, I just woke up one day and just said to my dad, Mum, I don't want to play football anymore. And he was a bit annoyed because I just got scouted for Nottingham Forest. So it was like just going to that level. And it just didn't bother me. That enjoyment wasn't there. It wasn't fun, and I just said no. So he didn't talk to me for about a week, and I still never changed my mind. And then ever from that day, never looked back.
Wow.
So I think you kind of know within yourself, and you know deep down when you're not enjoying something. I think it is easy to walk away. So yeah.
No, that's really interesting. I mean, you say it's easy to walk away. I think some people do sometimes struggle to leave things when they're going wrong. So that's a really good trait to have. And, you know, you say you've never looked back. Have you ever had any regrets at all, even with the kind of success of the England football team? Or has it always been, moved on to the next thing?
I mean, I do think everything happens for a reason in life, and I don't like to look back. If anyone knows me, that I'll always look forwards. And when I was watching the Lionesses in the summer, I was looking back like, I wonder if I'd ever made it. Football was very different to running. But yeah, it does make me wonder sometimes and question. But I think you are where you are in life because of the decisions you make growing up. So making that decision and not being a footballer might have not ever made me to be a runner if I'd carried on with that. So yeah, it was easy to walk away at the time, and now I look back and think it was definitely the right decision because now I am where I am. I'm not saying walking away from running would be like football, because I can honestly say I don't think it would be. I think walking away from running at this moment in time would be heartbreaking. I can't imagine it. Whereas football, I think when you're younger as well, I don't know, at that sort of age, I don't think you're as in tune with your emotions as you probably are when you're an adult. So like 13, 14, I probably wasn't in tune with my emotions as much. I can just walk away from things easier than what I probably would now.
Yeah. Well, either way, you know, clearly you've got to the right passion in the end, so that's the important thing. And in terms of, I guess, you know, you say you didn't really do any sport for a while. During that period, do you think if you had been training, be that football or another sport, you would still have the enjoyment that you have for the sport now? Or do you think in any way your mindset would be different?
It's really hard to tell because I did have that break from the sport. And I did enjoy that time out of the sport because, you know, I did live like your typical teenager. I went out with my friends every weekend, you know, did go out drinking. It wasn't excessive or anything, but I had the girly holidays. I had a lot of time with my family, you know, built up a lot of amazing memories and memories I can look back on for myself. That how I am with the sport now, I've had to sacrifice all of that or most of that now, and my life's very different. So to have maintained that for so long, if I'd started it sort of 16, 17, 18 running to now, I don't know if I would have carried on, or I might have been better, I might have been worse. It's really hard to say, but like you say, I kind of go back to that, everything happens for a reason, and I am where I am through my journey, and I try not to look back at it and think, well, what if I could have been a better athlete now? Might not have been a better athlete. It's really hard to say. You never know at the time. It's always when you look back and you look at your journey and think, okay, I've got here because of that situation and that situation.
I mean, you're running amazingly. So, you know, I think that just goes to show that there isn't necessarily a blueprint or a certain way that you have to enter a sport or do to become, you know, an elite athlete. And so, you know, you mentioned then 18, 19, that's when you started getting back into fitness. What in particular kind of influenced that or motivated you to do that?
Like you say, I have been very health conscious throughout, you know, all my life really. Although I had a period of time where I necessarily didn't do sport, I've always been very health conscious. You know, I like to look after myself. It's kind of I've always been like that. And it got to a point where I just thought, I don't know, maybe I'd gone out a little bit too much, and it was my boyfriend at the time. He was heavily into fitness, and I think he just kind of sparked into me that, okay, maybe I need to up my game with this fitness a little bit, because he would be going to the gym a lot, and it kind of inspired me, because I just thought, you know what, I used to love doing that. So it inspired me to do it. So we started doing it together, and I just loved it, and it just brought that love I have for sport again, I guess. And and how it makes you feel. So I kind of got into it through him, really. So yeah, thank you for that, Daniel. So then once I started training again, I just got that love for it and that passion and just that addiction. I think once you start, I think it is a very addictive feeling. And I was working full time as well, so it was nice little bit of release as well. Like you just have sometimes you have a stressful day at work with patients all day, and it was just nice to sort of go and train and just forget about everything and be focused in what I was doing. So yeah, that's how I kind of found my love for the sport again, and then running kind of came along with that. So when I was in the gym, I decided to then start running, because like you say, I used to run around on the pitch playing football, and I never used to find running difficult when I did run. You know, some people say when they first start running, like their knees hurt and it's really hard work. I can't say it ever felt like that with running. I like, it was tough, but I kind of craved that feeling. It was weird, and I never really had like joint pain or knee pain or anything like that. So I decided to start running in the gym on the treadmill a couple of times a week, maybe for like 15, 20 minutes. It was very gradual. Didn't really know what I was doing. I just jump on the treadmill and just set it to 20 minutes and don't know what pace it was, or it was very basic. So I did that more just as a fitness, to keep fit. And then I started running outside a little bit. So I ran with my boyfriend again at the time. He started doing some running outside, so we used to run together. And I just loved it. I started running in the summer, and I just absolutely loved it. Being outside, in the warmth, running, and just that feeling of release, and then ending on a run and just feel like you've really worked out. I just craved that feeling. And then I just kept doing that. So I kept increasing it week by week, month by month with the running. So 3 times a week would turn into 5, 5 would turn into 7. And then I would be running in the morning, running in the evening. So it just kind of gradually just got into a full-time thing.
Yeah. No, that's really lovely to hear. You know, I can see the kind of passion and animation on your face as well, which is really lovely. And so what was kind of the time gap between jumping on that treadmill in the gym to when you competed in your first race or event, you know?
Trying to remember now, I can't remember.
I can remind you if you want.
I think my first ever race, was it 2019?
2018, but right at the end.
I thought it was. That December time.
Basically 2019.
Yeah. So I remember, 2018, I started running. Again, like you say, I'd had so long out, hadn't really ran before. It was all just football based or just gym based. And then I started running in 2018. It was all from the treadmill. I'd just go on the gym, and then, within a few months was then outside training. And I did that probably for about 8 months straight, gradually building it, running, more and more. And then I decided to enter a race. I can't remember when this was now. Was it Nottingham Half Marathon?
Oh, it was, Nottingham Half Marathon, 30th of September 2018.
Yep, so I knew that was coming up because it comes up every year, and I knew people that was doing it, and I thought that would be great. I do all this running outside, but it's just for my own personal achievements, really. I want to achieve something at the end of it. So do a half marathon, a 10k. but I wanted to go all out and go for a half marathon because I'd already been doing sort of over 5k in training. Again, I never really used to track my distance. I never used to track my pace because I'd never been into running or surrounding myself with anyone that was a runner to help me with paces and distance. So I used to just go out with my my timer, my phone, and just be like, right, okay, I'm going to go and run for 6 o'clock and I'll be back for 7 o'clock. So however miles I used to cover in that, I don't know. I didn't imagine it was a massive amount of miles because I was probably running a lot slower. So maybe 8 miles or so. So yeah, I used to sort of do that, and I thought, well, let's just do a half marathon. I may as well go all out because at that time, achieving a half marathon would have been quite a big thing to me because I'd just started running. So I went straight into the deep end and thought I'd do a half. So yeah, I applied for Nottingham Half, got into that, started training towards that. Again, just training off my own back, no coach, just doing what I was doing. I don't think I even did interval sessions. I think it was just getting out the door and just running whatever pace I felt like that day. Did the Nottingham Half and I got the 4th lady. So to me that was a huge achievement, just finishing the race. So then being just off the podium, because it's quite an established race. There must have been 13,000 runners maybe. There's quite a lot of runners. So I was just super, super proud of myself, and I just loved every minute of it. I loved the support from the crowd. I just loved that feeling, although it was very painful and I couldn't walk for days after. I just loved that sense of achievement. So I decided literally a few days later, rang up the local running club, because as you'll get to know me, I'm very all or nothing with things. My personality is literally, I'm fully invested or I'm not invested at all. Not half-heartedly, I'm all or nothing. So after that race, it was, right, I'm going to be a runner. I'm going to run and I'm going to do what I can to see where I can get. It wasn't necessarily GB best and England best. It wasn't that at all. I was never thinking that. It was more, what can I do to be the best I can be? And if that's running 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, then that's what I'll do. So went to literally rang the running club, and then within a week I'd done 2 of their sessions. They were like, yeah, come down. Have you ever ran for a club before? I was like, nope. That was my first ever race, first half marathon. And they were like, wow, that's impressive. Yeah, come down. And I literally went down on that Tuesday after the race, and started training with them for quite a few months actually.
No, wow. I mean, as a fellow all or nothing mindset person myself, I can only say, that's the only way to go, really. And, really good job you did. And I mean, a year later, 2019, you then dropped to 73:07 half marathon, which is crazy, a crazy kind of improvement. So specifically, can you think of anything that might have made the biggest difference to you? Obviously, aside from a huge bundle of natural talent.
I think there's a number of factors, really. I wouldn't say there's just the one or two. People always say natural talent, but I'm not convinced on that. People tell me that they're like, oh, Sam, yeah, you must have. But I'm just like, no, I just feel like I just work hard for what I do. I don't think if I didn't work as hard as I did, would I still be where I am? Probably not, but who knows? But yeah, I think a lot of it's mental. I think if you've got that mindset, I think I really do, like I say, I think there is no limits. I think I had that mindset of, I want to achieve things. Again, like you say, it was little steps. So it would just be achieve a half marathon, achieve a certain time. It wouldn't be achieve to be where I am now. That's just kind of coincidentally happened along the way. So it's just having that little bit of mindset of determination and really trying to find my limits and my goals. And the other thing is having that support. I think it really helps having that support network. I obviously have a coach now, whereas back then I didn't have a coach. So now having a coach, they can plan with you and you have these goals, and the training's a lot more specific to me, whereas before I probably would have only got so far because I was just doing my own thing. So some of it probably wasn't ideal, really, when I look back at some of the training I used to do. So now I have a lot more structure, and I think just making those commitments and sacrifices. I think when you start making commitments and sacrifices for things, I do think there's always rewards at the end of it, and putting that hard work and grafting that you need to do, really.
Yeah, definitely. And, while we're on the note of training, could you walk us through a typical training week for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I'm slightly injured, so a typical training week is slightly different. But yeah, on average, a typical training week would be, 2 sessions a week on the track, or one of them would be like a track and the other one would be on the road. Some kind of low tempo run in that week, a long run, and then just like lots of easy miles sort of in between, really. Sort of averaged around about 100 miles a week. That would be sort of not marathon training. Marathon training would be slightly more. So yeah, that would be just a standard week, really. And I would do 2 gym sessions a week as well. So that would be sort of strength work, focusing on that area, because I think that's really important to incorporate into training too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, gotta keep the base strong for sure.
Yeah.
And of that, is there something that you enjoy the most, or something you enjoy the least?
I do love a long run, especially with the training partners that I train with. I think it's just great. It flies by. 2 hours flies by. So it's great to run on the trails and just have a chat and just run with friends. So I do love a long run. I'd say that is my favourite. And then I do love a track session. Track session days, they're probably the most painful. And the lungs don't like them, or the legs, but I do find them fun. It's just different to just doing easy miles, and it just gets your heart rate up. It gets you just kind of have to be so focused and just switched on in a session like that. So I just like that feeling, rather than just an easy run. You can just put your headphones in and just relax. Whereas I like training hard. I think maybe that's the crazy psycho in me.
No, I mean, it's well matched for a professional runner. So
Yeah.
you got to have that drive. But yeah, I'd imagine that with, marathon, half marathon training, it must be quite a lot of easy miles, easy volume. So probably nice to get some, I guess, can you consider it speed stuff, what you do on track?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I do love doing the speed. I think, as you say, you do a lot of easy miles, particularly when you're marathon training. So you feel like you're just constantly doing them slow miles. So then, to go and do some speed work, it feels like it's such a different mix-up. So it's good. It makes you work and tick in a different way. So I must admit, I do love my track sessions.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, now you've been training, I guess, probably about, is it 4 years or so? Trying to do the quick maths.
Yeah, I'd say to this sort of level, it's been a few years now, yeah.
Yeah, and, looking back on, I guess, where you were before and where you are now, do you miss anything from where running was before in terms of your training approach? Or, is there something that has been the most surprising to you, or that you've surprised yourself with the most through kind of a more scheduled training?
I guess, over the last sort of 5 to 6 years, from being a beginner runner, as I would class myself, absolutely, to elite athlete, I definitely made a lot of lifestyle choices, a lot of sacrifices. I had to change quite a few things. Like you say, when you're fully committed to something, you do have to sometimes make them little sacrifices that I wouldn't have done at the start. When I first started running, I would have still probably had a few more later nights and met up with friends and gone to that, if they'd invited me out on a night out or something that was going to be really late, I probably would have just gone ahead with it. Whereas now I would have been very, very reluctant now, and I probably wouldn't go, or I would be the first one to leave, or I wouldn't be drinking. It all depends on the phase of training that I'm in. If I'm in a marathon block, I'm very committed into that marathon block, and my recovery is priority. So I can't be having those late nights and things like that. Drinking kind of gets knocked on the head, not because I don't enjoy it. It's just more of, I just want to be fresh the next day, ready for my training, because I am training pretty much 6-7 days a week. So I just want to wake up fresh and ready. And so it is those little lifestyle changes that you have to make in order to fully invest that time into running. But it's been absolutely fine. I wouldn't say I miss those things, because like I say, I've kind of gone through my life and done a lot of the things that I've wanted to do. So I wouldn't say I miss them, but sometimes I guess you feel a little bit, I don't know, like you're missing out on the odd occasion. A lot sometimes when I'm away in competitions, or I'm racing and they're abroad, or I'm on a training camp and it's like my best friend's birthday and I've had to miss it because I'm at a training camp. Little things like that I feel quite guilty for, because you think, oh, sorry, like if you feel bad you can't be there. But they all understand that that's just a part of the lifestyle. Like with running, it's not like a 9-to-5 job where you can just go home and forget about work sometimes. With running, it's almost like a 24-hour day on your mind, 7 days a week. It's a constant kind of thing all year round. You don't really ever switch off like you can. Like when I used to dental nurse, I could just switch off from my job. Once I'd done my shift, it was, okay, well, I can go switch off now and focus on training or going to see my friends. Whereas with running, I feel like you don't fully switch off in that way at all. So I guess, yeah, it is a bit of a change, but it's a life that I've adapted to, and it's a life that I'll continue to keep doing until I don't enjoy it, or I want to then. I think we all go through spells in life, and I think this is just the phase and spell of life that I'm going through. And in another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I might be at a completely different place. You never really know, but I'm just embracing what I'm going through now, and just enjoying this journey, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it really is, so much more than just kind of an athlete competing. It's a lifestyle. It's a job, as you say. And talking about jobs, and you mentioned there being a dental, or having been a dental nurse. At what point did you transition from working to being an athlete full time? And yeah, how did you find balancing running with being a dental nurse whilst the two were ongoing?
Yeah, so that was a really tough time, actually. So there's about a year and a half, it might have been touching nearly 2 years, where I was just breaking through to that elite level. Wasn't quite fully there. I hadn't got a sponsor at the time, and I was working long hours full time. And I was trying to fit everything in, because I was still having that like quite busy social life as well. Because again, I wasn't a fully professional athlete, so I hadn't made all my commitments, all my sacrifices. So I had quite a lot going on at the time, and I think because I knew no different, I kind of just managed it for a good year or so. Everybody used to look at it as an outsider and say, how you manage your life, I do not know. But I think you're that engrossed into it, you don't know any different. I don't know any different to this. This is just how it is, and I love running too much to give it up, and I've got to work because I need to financially, and that's just how it is. Yeah. So for about a year, I just sort of just went through the process, went through the motions, and then it got into like the second year of doing it. And again, I was doing better in competitions, and it was when I got my first GB vest this year. So it was almost like that moment of, oh wow, this is really becoming something now. And there's a couple of times where I was just struggling going into work a little bit, like my focus wasn't fully there, because when I'm working I work hard. And I could see that things were slipping slightly, trying to manage a full-time job, full-time running, because I was still doing a lot of training, morning and evening, a lot of miles still a week, up at 5 a.m. I used to train sometimes till 10:30 at night, all in one day, as well as a 9-hour shift. And then, trying to fit in my friends, because they was a priority as well. It got a lot that second year, and my passion for running was becoming more and more apparent. And I thought, I don't know if I can maintain this. My standards are slipping a little bit with work. It was just little things like I'll be rocking up 5 minutes late, and that's not me. I never used to do that. And luckily the work girls were so supportive, and they knew that I was just getting overworked with what I was putting on myself. And I've got a very good relationship with my manager, and she was just saying like, oh, you're doing so much, like it's amazing what you're achieving. And she's like, can you manage all this? And I kind of went into a bit of a meltdown to her. I think she was like, yeah, this is what everyone's been waiting for. Like, you can only live that chaotic lifestyle for so long, because it will come and find you. I mean, I managed it for a year, and then my manager, bless her, she's absolute gem. She was just like, look, if you was my daughter, I'd want you to just pursue this running. She's like, you don't know where it's going to take you, but it's amazing whatever you're doing, and you're doing it managing, you know, a full-time 9 to 10 hour shift job, training crazy hours at night and in the morning, and doing everything else you do in between. And she just said, if there's any opportunity for you to commit a bit more to that and less to everything else, can you do that? And it was just one of them where it was all down to one thing mainly, which was financial. And because I didn't have a sponsor, and cutting down my hours at work would mean obviously a cut with money. So it's just something that for a couple of months I was thinking about, and then I made a decision I was having talks with sponsors at this point as well. So I knew it was all kind of coming together. And yeah, I decided to then cut my hours down to part-time after, you know, talking to my family, and they saying, you know, we'll support you or help you, this is your journey, and just taking that sacrifice. And then Adidas did very fortunately come along very soon after, so it all kind of fell very perfectly. So then yeah, going part-time for until now has massively helped. Like I do actually still technically work 1 day a week, but it's very flexible. My work are absolutely amazing. They kind of just let me come and go, really. They understand the life, and they understand that my commitments, and they understand what, you know, that I might need to last minute go off on training camp. I might be ringing them up a couple of weeks saying I can't come in on that Friday to work because I've got a race in Dubai, Spain, wherever. They could fully understand. So yeah, I think having somebody, a workplace like that is so on board with you, it makes your life so much easier. And they've always said that the door's always open. You want to come back full time, you can come back full time. You want to cut your last day, and because they've already said, like, it's not them that's keeping my Friday, my 1 day a week that I work. It's me, as a security, as a bit of a, I think it's a bit more of a mental thing, a bit of like, I've still got my foot in the door with a normal job if running doesn't work out. And it's such a good workplace. I love the girls that work there. I love my manager, and just to walk away with that just doesn't suit, like, it doesn't sit right with me to walk away from them. So yeah, that's where we are. Just still working 1 day a week, but running mainly full time.
Yeah, no, wow, that's amazing. And I think it's really nice of you to kind of share what it was like during that year, and, you know, that it's not always an easy journey, and, you know, it does take a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment. And, you know, good job you clearly made your mark there before, and, you know, they've been able to be so accommodating and understanding, which is really great. And I guess if you look back on hindsight with that chaotic year, is there anything that you would have done differently to have managed your time, or do you think, you know, you were best foot forwards given the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to look back. It's just like, would I be where I am if I didn't go through all of that? I think, weirdly, going through all of that in that period of time, I think it does help, although it doesn't feel like it at the time because it is quite stressful. I think going through it just kind of made me a lot more resilient, and that I can take on a lot if I have to. Not that I'm advising that, and you shouldn't, but if life gets to a point where everything's chucked at you, you can go through it and you can do it. It's not a nice situation to go through, but it's hopefully never a long period of time that you're going through that. Like you say, it was about 1.5 years that I went through that, and then everything just worked out. It was tough during the time, because you just think, how long can I continue like that, like this? You think, oh, am I going to be able to manage it? And then you start to think, do I have to give up on something here? And yeah, luckily I was able to just give up on work, which not everybody's fortunate of doing that. So, you know, I am very grateful to be able to do that. But yeah, so I probably wouldn't change anything. It'd have been nicer if I probably went through it for a less amount of time, maybe a couple of months instead of 1.5 years. But it is what it is, and, you know, I am here where I am today because of this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I guess, yeah, it's about having the confidence to go for something and, you know, fully see it through when you do commit. And, you know, it's great that things came through with Adidas, but you mentioned kind of speaking with sponsors and that kind of being a whole potentially process. Can you talk us through what that process is like, and, you know, how you ended up with Adidas in the end?
Yeah, so I have an agent, and my agent at the time, he was, like you say, I was coming through, just coming through as sort of an elite athlete, and he was just getting sponsors through the door, and it's very difficult when you're just coming through, because you just need that sponsor to knock on the door to believe in you. And my agent was trying to put that across to sponsors, to say, look, this girl's got a lot of potential, and there's so many people that are coming through, so it's hard for sponsors because they've got to invest in somebody that might come through, that might not, and when there's money involved, people are always more reluctant. So yeah, my agent has had to put across, like, these are the goals, this is what we want to achieve in the next 5 to 6 years or 10 years, and a few sponsors sort of came knocking, and Adidas was the one that just sort of stood out to me, and I just felt something just felt right with Adidas, and I just thought, I'm going to go with them. And it wasn't necessarily, just about the money, it was just having that overall gut feeling, because like you say, as an athlete, I want a long career in the sport, and you want to be with that brand hopefully throughout that career, and I just wanted a brand that I just felt right with, and Adidas was that brand, so I was very grateful when they came knocking.
Yeah, no, definitely, that's so great. And is that something that, in terms of contracts, do they last for a fair duration, or are they kind of renegotiated on a rolling basis?
Yeah, I think I don't know how all the other sponsors work. I think every contract is very different and very individual. Mine was a set contract for a certain amount of time. It's quite a long amount of time actually, which is nice. I think because I've come into the sport quite new, I think they invested a longer period of time because they could see my long-term potential in the sport. So that was nice, a lot of security, and it's nice to know that I'm going to be with them over the next sort of 3, 4, 5 years. So yeah, I think it's very individual on the contracts that you have really with that sponsor.
Yeah, no, that's, really, really good. And in terms of, I guess, now where you're at, at this such high level, running such incredible times, do you feel that the pressure is kind of built, or in any way that your approach to running feels different now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a sport is pressure, I guess. I mean, like you say, a lot of people don't like to say the word pressure because it can be used in a negative way, but I don't think it's always negative. I think it can be negative, but it also can be positive, because if you're feeling a pressure, I think that means you are exceeding or doing very well in something, and it means that you are passionate. If you didn't feel anything, I think that would be a strange feeling. I think you need to feel something to love that sport, and feeling pressure, it depends on how you see it, but yeah, you definitely feel that there's a level of expectation, and that you should do certain times or do well, and expectation there. It's just how you handle that, I guess. There's been moments, where I've not handled it great, but there's been moments where you wouldn't even, it's not really been the first thing on my mind. I think you just learn to control what you can control, and I just try and not put too much pressure on things, and just be like, all I can do is what I can do, and do my best, and that's all you can do, really.
Yeah, no,
just do your best.
yeah, exactly. No, it sounds like you've got a really, growth mindset, which is, definitely super important as an athlete. And so, through your journey so far, if you look on paper, it's kind of just a exponential kind of journey of success, really. But have you encountered any major challenges, or anything that, set you back?
Trying to think now. Well, there's been absolutely little setbacks along the way. I'd actually say my biggest setback, which is probably my current situation, because I'm not going to lie, over probably the last 5 years of the sport, I've not really had any injuries. I've not really had anything which I can really say has massively set me back. There's been minor setbacks, but again, it's very minor, and it might have set you back a week, if that. But nothing that's been too bad, really. Which I knew that, there's probably going to be points where it's not going to be so plain sailing, because life isn't plain sailing. But yeah, I probably encountered my most first serious injury now, actually. I've never been out for over sort of up to 6 weeks before. So I'd say this is probably the most where I've been like, oh, okay, this is not quite a minor setback of a week or so.
Yeah.
But that is a part of it, and everyone that's kind of been around, that's around me at the moment, I like you're dealing with it very, very well. Of course, I have my moments, you know, where I'm just like really frustrated because I just want to get out and do what I do best, which is run. And especially when I've got competitions coming up, you do start to feel a bit more sort of agitated. You start to feel a little bit more stressed because you're like, right, okay, I need to be prepared at this point for that competition. Am I going to be ready? And that's the worrying thing, where I've never really felt like that. So I'd say this is probably the hardest setback so far. Like you say, always going to have them, but yeah, so this is probably my first since 2019 2018, 2019, like you say, first big setback. Yeah. The others have just been some, like you say, just minor setbacks that you can just sort of get on with, where this one has been where, you know, okay, I've got to step back and I've just got to let this it's all just mental. When you go through an injury, it is all just mental, and you just need to keep mentally focused and just know what the goal is at the end, and you'll get there. And it's just a process, and it's just a part of the process. It's like anything, like things aren't plain sailing in life, and yeah, I guess you kind of get used to that, and you can always sort of sometimes waiting for that setback, and I guess mine probably come at possibly the worst time it can come, but hey ho. I feel like if I do get a setback, it's always going to be one of the, like, a huge setback. It's never going to just be something that you can just bypass and override.
Yeah, oh no, I'm really sorry to hear, and it is so difficult dealing with injuries, and it's kind of the unpredictable nature of them as well that can be so difficult. But are you kind of on your way to recovery now?
Yeah, I'm sort of in the middle of the process, so sort of just in that getting by. It's just keeping mentally switched on and just being like, look, we're not there, we're nearly there, just keep being focused and patient, and you'll be absolutely fine. I think it's just trusting the process, and having great support around you always helps. And luckily I have that mindset of, I see setbacks as comebacks, and I really do. I do think things happen for a reason, and I'm just hoping at the end of it I'll be able to look back and be like, again, like the rest of my journey over the past sort of 28 years leads me to where I am. So I'm hoping I'll be able to say the same thing, in a couple of months' time, and be like, you know what, I did all of that happened, but now look what I've just done. Yeah, and just look back in that sort of way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so many people come back from breaks or big injuries and actually run better. Cross training can be so beneficial. And what injury did you kind of pick up then?
It was actually a stress fracture, to my sacrum.
Oh,
so
okay,
I don't know if I've ever had one before. It's not that I'm aware of. I'm not quite sure. So marathon training, it kind of happened, back in December, so last month. And it's just one of them where you just got to be patient. And it's one of them because once you've got the green light's great. Because you know that hopefully you're fine, because I've never had one in the past, so I'm hoping it's just that one-off, just completely unfortunate injury is. So once I've got the green light, it is just can run, and hopefully don't have to worry about it reoccurring. But it's just being patient and going through that process.
Yeah, definitely patience. Yeah, that is the key one for sure. And I guess in terms of that, do you feel that it could have been a result of anything such as maybe like Red S related, or just kind of sheer pounding of the miles from such big volume?
Yeah, I do think it is just one of those freak injuries of the miles potentially. I didn't really have any properly symptoms, so it's not like something that you're aware of, but you might slightly pretend that you're not aware of it and just bypass it. It wasn't anything like that. It was just literally I just got a little bit of discomfort in my sort of back area, and then sort of the next day was really struggling to sort of run. So I was like, oh, okay, this is not good. But thankfully, you know, I got a scan within literally like 2-3 days. So it was something we could just get right on top of straight away, rather than wait weeks and weeks and make things worse or delay things. It was right, okay, let's get this. Like I say, I'm very much in tune with my body. I don't think so this is my first injury. I don't think I've had an injury at all, really. I did have a little niggle. I've had maybe 1 or 2 niggles over the past 5 or 6 years, but I would say nothing that's kept me out for longer than 2 weeks. So this is probably my first proper injury in my whole sports career. So I think I have done very well. Like I say, I'm very in tune with my body. I'm not superhuman, you know, it's always going to happen, yeah. Particularly when you move up to the marathon. You know, I do a lot of miles and I'm not afraid to say that. My body does actually usually handle it very well. I'm not aware that I've ever suffered from RED-S, REDS. I'm not actually that educated on it that much, and I sort of know what it's about, but to what I'm aware of, I've never suffered from anything like that as a kid and growing up. I think this one is just a complete freak injury of a lot of training, no break, and just continue going into the marathon as well after another marathon. So it's probably just too much load just on certain parts of the body, and it just sometimes just causes them to break, and it's just like, oh, it's annoying when it happens, but like you say, these things happen when you're an athlete and you're pushing your body to extreme limits. It's a risk that you have to take.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would all be easier if we're made of steel or something, wouldn't it? Or carbon these days. There we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would help. But yeah, no, it is really difficult. And I guess then, you know, you mentioned being, you know, very in tune with your body, which has clearly served you really well. In terms of, I guess, things like nutrition, is that an area where you've kind of been someone who's quite intuitive in terms of refueling with sessions and stuff? Or is that something you've had to make a conscious effort with?
Yeah, I mean, I have a nutritionist that I speak to just to make sure things are, you know, all okay and I'm doing the right things. But before that, I feel that my nutrition's always been pretty good. I'm one of them that I'd say I'd eat too much, necessarily whether they're the right things, but I feel like I've always been quite in tune with what my body needs and what I give it and making sure I'm giving it enough. I think it is very important, and growing up, because I was sort of in and out of sport, I've always kind of never had that. So I know some people go through the sort of pressures growing up with the whole RED-S and eating disorders. I don't think I've really ever experienced that, very fortunately. So even growing up as a kid, I never really had those sort of experiences. So I feel like I've always been pretty good in that sort of nutritional side and nutritional area, and that's might have been a reason why, you know, I haven't had that many injuries. Just trying to make sure that ticking all them boxes on recovery and looking after myself.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's, you know, really, really good to hear, because it is something that can be so problematic for, you know, so many athletes. And so we're coming to the end of our time now. We've had a lot of questions, so thanks guys for sending them in. We've randomly picked a couple because, you know, quite a lot of you this time. So first up we've got, what was your training like when you were younger and how has it changed? We've kind of covered it a bit, but...
Yeah, again, sort of football background when I was younger, just sort of, did some sports for fun. It was nothing ever intense or, it was very vague. It was sort of in and out of sport. So I played football for a few years, then didn't do anything, and then sort of came back into it later in life. So it was very up and down. And obviously the training's very different now until when I was younger. When I was younger, although it was a lot of commitment with football, and I guess it was pretty intense when I was going through that football phase, but it was nothing to what it is now. It was just like, now it's continuous 7 days a week, twice a day, whereas back then it wasn't quite like that.
Yeah, exactly. And have you ever suffered from disordered eating or body image struggles?
I think we touched on this one again as
well. We've kind of wrapped them all in. Should we?
Yeah. No, I can't say that I have, to be honest with you. I can't say that I've ever struggled with sort of body image growing up, or any eating disorders. No, not really to answer that question.
Okay, and we've got, is it possible to run well and work a 40-hour week? So I guess we've sort of touched on it, but I guess from your own reflections, do you think it would be possible to run well and work the 40-hour week?
Yeah, it is tough, and I do empathise with anyone that is trying to juggle running full-time and training, working. It is really tough. I think it is doable. Again, it's just if you can make sure that you're having that recovery in between. I think that's the most important thing. If you're training so much and you're working all them sort of hours, it's just if you're getting that time in for that recovery, I would say is the most important thing. Yep,
definitely take that on board, guys. Recovery is key. And we've now got, how do you stay motivated during the cold winter months?
Yeah, it's really tough, especially at the moment when it's -4 out there. I think if you can get some good training partners that can, get you out the door, keep you motivated, lots of layers. If you can run out in the daylight, it's much better than in the evenings when it's cold as well as dark. Lots of layers, good training partners, and lots of warm stew and warm foods.
Yeah, exactly. Get the soups down.
Yeah.
And we've also got, how often do you take a rest day?
How often?
Yep.
I would say it's very much dependent on how I feel. I don't schedule an exact day in, but some people do, which works absolutely fine for them. I kind of go on feel. So if I'm starting to feel fatigued and tired, I'll be like, right, okay, this is a sign for a rest day. So on average, I'd say that was like once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to finish off with, what is your proudest running moment to date and why?
Ooh, proudest running moment. Oh, there's many now. There's many. You know what I'm going to say is, I think it's just because my family and friends were there to watch me and soak in that incredible atmosphere was just incredible. The Commonwealth Games, 10,000. I just absolutely love that. So I'd say that is probably my proudest moment.
Yeah, definitely. It was an incredible run. So yeah, definitely something to be proud of. Okay, well, no, thank you so much for coming on and, taking the time out of your, busy day to share your background and journey. So no, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. And I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.